What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome to the Word on Woodward, presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. Wherever you're watching today, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your live notifications so you don't ever miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. And of course, wherever you're watching today, make sure you drop the hashtag Word on Woodward with your thoughts, comments, questions, anything that you want added to the show, and we'll try to get to them later in the show. Again, use that hashtag, the Word on Woodward. We've got some great interviews today. Of course, Ken Kal will be joining us for our mailbag, and we've got interviews with the Tigers prospect, Daniel Cabrera, Max Bultman of The Athletic, Evan Woodbury of MLive, and MLB Network's Sean Casey, plus a lot more. And I do want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, you can get your free flu shots at Comerica Park, courtesy of Meyer, today until 6 p.m. Again, that is your free flu shot at Comerica Park today until 6 p.m. So if you haven't got one already, make sure you head down there. And we have a very special shout out to give before we start today's show. Shout out to Len. He's a native Detroiter listening all the way in Arizona. We're glad to have fans all over the country, and we're glad that you're joining us, Len. Thank you so much for tuning into the Word on Woodward every Tuesday and Thursday. And now I'm going to bring in my co-host, Art Regner, and I'm sure Len is a big Art Regner fan too. So what do you think, Art? Isn't that cool? He's from Detroit listening in Arizona.
Well, thank you there, Len. We appreciate it. I'm sure he's a huge fan of mine. As you know, I have a cult following in Berlin. It goes back to my old days at FoxSportsDetroit.com when I used to host a show called Lunch with Art. And, I don't know if it's because my last name's German or what, but for everybody out there in Berlin, the fatherland or whatever, way to go. Yeah, we love Germany too, especially you Berliners. Ein kleines Berlin, or whatever John Kennedy said back then. I have no idea. I'm kind of misquoting him, I'm sure.
Right, good work. You tried. We'll end it there. Now we'll get into the big three.
Thank you.
Presented by Chevy. Our first subject of the big three today. The Tigers had some coaching staff changes. They hired a new pitching coach in Chris Fetter. Juan Nieves was named the assistant pitching coach. They've got Josh Paul and Ramon Santiago remaining on the staff. George Lombard was hired as the bench coach. Scott Coolbowl is the hitting coach, and Chip Hale at the third base spot. So some very exciting moves for the Tigers. The one that seemed to get a lot of attention was pitching coach Chris Fetter. He spent the last 3 seasons coaching pitching coach for the University of Michigan baseball team. Very into analytics, and people are really excited about what he can bring to the Tigers.
Well, certainly. I mean, if you look at this coaching staff, and this is like maybe the first glimpse we get to see of AJ Hinch and what he's thinking about and what type of manager he is and how he's thought of in the baseball world. And if you look at it, I mean, George Lombard interviewed for the Tigers job. He ends up being the bench coach. Scott Coolbowl, I believe, was the White Sox hitting coach. And we all know how they can mash the ball there in Chicago. Good to see our buddy Ramon Santiago back. Chip Hale, longtime veteran. I mean, when you look at this, at these coaches, I know we're going to get into it a little bit more. And then you had Chris Fetter, who is probably one of the really hot commodities as far as a young pitching coach who has been able to work wonders. Obviously, I'm familiar with him because he was a pitcher at Michigan, and then what he was able to do with the Wolverines, who, a couple of years ago went to the College World Series. Really interesting thing about that. I can remember when Michigan was in the College World Series, Dylan Larkin had his hockey school at the same time, and I was over there at the Lakeland Ice Arena talking to him, and we both couldn't imagine that the next Michigan team playing for a national championship would be their baseball team. And it was their baseball team. Obviously they lost to Vanderbilt, but we were both kind of amazed by that. And that's a testament to the whole Wolverine staff, but really to Chris Fetter, who took a lot of guys who were drafted into Major League Baseball off that staff for Michigan. So I think that's a great hire. George Lombard as a bench coach. I mean, I like all this. I mean, you cannot look at this and not think, my gosh, what an impressive coaching staff the Tigers have put together. So, I wish the season started yesterday based on what I've seen, especially because I just have a feeling that we're going to unleash the torque sometime next season.
I hope AJ Hinch feels the same way you do, Art, but we are very much looking forward to another baseball season. And of course, this new coaching staff that the Tigers have put together, it's going to be very, very exciting. With that being said, we will move on to our second topic of the big three for today. We've got more baseball talk with Evan Woodbury and Sean Casey later in the show. But Art, we have to talk about Justin Ablocator and what he wrote in the Players Tribune. I was telling you this yesterday. I'm a bit of a baby. I cry easily. I cry at movies, cry at books, I cry at everything. And when I read what Justin Ablocator wrote about the city of Detroit and his time spent as a Red Wing, I couldn't help but tear up a little bit. It was very heartfelt, very personal. And we know that he's from the west side of the state. So he grew up with the dream of being a Detroit Red Wing. So like I said, very heartfelt. The message was great. And he really, really loved it here in Detroit.
Well, no doubt. I mean, I really like the Players Tribune. There have been some, when we had Bobby Ryan on, he wrote right after his mother passed away, he wrote a letter to her, which, was published in the Players Tribune. I mean, it's really a great thing to get like insight and where guys just kind of be themselves. And, the thing I like, and I encourage everybody to read it, is Justin Ablocator said, all I ever wanted to be was a Red Wing. I might be paraphrasing that. And then he talks about everybody and kind of pays a tribute to, the city of Detroit, the fans, Red Wing staff. And, it's sad in a way because I'm sure this didn't end the way Justin Ablocator or any of his fans or even the Red Wings didn't want to end. A player that has served so much time with one team and one uniform and wore a letter, you'd like to see them be able to go out under their own terms. But unfortunately, the harsh reality is professional sports is a business. I don't mean to sound cliche-ish here. And at this point, the Red Wings had to make a tough decision. And, and I haven't talked to Steve Yzerman about this, but I know on a personal level, this was not an easy decision for him to make because of what Justin is all about. Mm-hmm. And I think if you read that Players Tribune, you'll find out. He's a high character, high quality guy, good guy to have in the room, a real leader. Yet the hockey side, unfortunately, just wasn't there anymore. Or enough of it wasn't there to help a team that's in a rebuild. When you're in a rebuild, chances are they look at stats and they see a veteran guy or a young guy who could maybe press that veteran or even match maybe his stat output. Chances are you're going to go with that younger player just because they have a higher upside. Let's put it that way. And so that's kind of sad. But Justin, class act all the way. I always love talking to him. We always went about that Michigan State rivalry. Just a good guy, and I wish him nothing but the best, nothing but the success, lovely wife and, kids. And I mean, he's a stand-up guy. And you know what, I'm going to say this, and I usually don't say this, Daniela, but for a Spartan, it doesn't get much better than Justin Ablocator. He's, all around, he's a good dude, man. I really, really like Justin. And again, I wish him nothing but the best, but please read that. I think that if you're just a Michigander or a Detroiter, I think you'll understand where he's coming from. Very, very well done.
Yeah, I think we all echo that, Art. Justin Ablocator is a great guy, great family, and we wish him nothing but the best in whatever his future does hold for him. And now we're going to move on to our third and final topic of the big three for today, the Rookie of the Year, MLB Awards. The first one was the Rookie of the Year last night for both the American League and the National League. Let's start with the American League, Art. It was the Mariners center fielder, Kyle Lewis, a unanimous decision, which says a lot about the type of player that he is. Not only was he a great center fielder, but he led the team with a batting average of .262. He led the team in home runs, and walks. So definitely well-deserved for Kyle Lewis, but a unanimous decision might be the most important thing that I just said, because that's incredible. Everybody casted a vote for Kyle Lewis.
Well, unanimous decision. I guess Luis Robert probably, he was like the odds on, that's all we talked about in the beginning of the season, but he had a really horrible slump at the end. And then Kyle Lewis gets it. Well-deserved. If you're a unanimous decision, how can you argue with it? I mean, it was right there, Now, of course, if Mark Milligan had a vote, it would be Willie Castro, as we know. But aside from Mark voting for Willie Castro, which would not have made it a unanimous decision, Mark is our great producer here, but and loves Willie Castro, by the way. But I mean, I kind of look at this award as like the Grammys Best New Artist. He deserves it for that rookie year. But then let's see his body of work, because some guys, whether it's injury or they just don't pan out. This is a strange award, but it is an award for that particular year or season. I mean, it's, sometimes a guy will win another award, MVP or Cy Young, but it's almost a culmination of their career, like, okay, hey, he's been doing it a long time. He definitely deserves to win this award. Rookie of the year is completely different. So, I have no problem with Kyle Lewis winning it.
Yeah, there's also the circumstances that they were playing under this season. I don't know if that adds pressure or that helps his numbers for becoming the rookie of the year because it was a shortened season, but there's still a lot of different pressures that he was dealing with as a rookie. So very impressive that he was able to pull the numbers that he did.
Well, you make a great point. What we forget about, they played in an empty stadium. Right. Even though Major League Baseball pulled it off, there wasn't any crowd or anything to get him jacked up. I mean, then the bench and certainly a professional athlete is motivated to win because of the competition. If you don't have a passion for your sport and if you don't love to compete, guess what? You're not a professional player in anything. So, that's there. But, the roar of the crowd, he probably dreamt as a little boy of being a professional baseball player and playing in the big leagues. He didn't dream about playing in an empty stadium. So, that is without question, that is certainly a thing. And all the rookies, Casey Arthur Mize, Tarek Skubal, these guys made it to the show, but it was empty. That's a little bit of a mind bender for you. Again, I congratulate him and I congratulate, Devin Williams, the Brewers, their reliever. That guy, his stats were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. An ERA under zero. Not zero. If it was zero, it'd be like negative. And it was like, my God, he was so good. They were taking runs off the board. Oh, sorry, Detroit, you have 6 runs. Devin Williams is in there. You get 3 taken back. His ERA is negative. But, anyway, hey, congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment, especially in these weird times.
Fun fact, Devin Williams, he's the first to win without a start or a save. So first to win the Rookie of the Year award without a start or a save, just a pure reliever. So very cool. Congratulations to both of those guys. And we will definitely be updating you as we have more MLB award winners. That does it for today's Big Three, everybody. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And now, everybody, we're going to welcome our first guest of the show for the mailbag, delivered to you by Little Caesars. And today's guest is Ken Kal, your Red Wings radio play-by-play announcer. Ken, I always feel bad. You're waiting for Art and I, and we're always talking. So thank you for being so patient, and welcome again. It's always great to see you.
Well, I learned a lot in that first segment, and I just want to say that, I read Justin Abdelkader's article too, and, I just have so many great memories of Justin Abdelkader, and, just for Art and myself growing up here in Detroit to be a part of the Red Wing organization is really a dream come true, and I can only imagine what it's like for Justin Abdelkader as well. Growing up playing hockey and wanting to become a Detroit Red Wing one day, and was a big part of this team, especially when they won a Stanley Cup when he was a member of the Red Wings. So, all the best to Justin Abdelkader. I hope, his hockey career continues in some way. And, I'll tell you the other thing about Justin Abdelkader that probably nobody really knows about is the fact that while he was playing, he was really effective in the community. He would go out and he would read to students, grade schools and kids, and the importance of reading. And he did this all without people knowing about it. So, that's the kind of guy he is. He was big in the community, helped a lot of kids along the way, and was a terrific player and a guy in the community and an ambassador for the Red Wings as well.
Well, what's really interesting, he wrote a children's book. And in the children's book, if you read it, he has that Michigan State stuff going. But what's interesting is that, there was always a cat. He was actually a cat person. And what is this leading to? My cat's favorite Red Wing is Justin Abdelkader. I mean, this cat castle now is the Justin Abdicator cat castle because the guys demanded it. He's that good a dude. So, but Ken's absolutely right. All kidding aside, the things he did, and Ken knows this after the game, even after a tough loss, and there were many tough losses, unfortunately, last couple of years, Justin was always out there not only answering questions, but meeting kids in the community. Even though the Red Wings lost, people are lined up to go into the room or meet their Red Wing. The community relations department sets that stuff up. Justin was the guy, and he did it, and he did it with a smile on his face, and, he really served it well. And I also got to say, if Ken Kal and I were Red Wings, if we were able to wear that sweater, even just one time, let me tell you, it would be memorable. I don't know what we would do, but you would remember it.
It would definitely be memorable. That's a word for it. And I feel like I have to ask it. Ken, do you still have a landline phone? Is that what was just ringing?
Yeah, that was my agent, I think, calling, I don't know what he was calling about, but telling me to get to work, I guess. I don't know. No. Yeah, you know what? The only reason why I have that phone is because in order to get a better rate on my phone bill and everything, you got to bundle it, and I still can't figure out how to get rid of it.
Yeah, so who knows who it was? We'll let you get to that after the mailbag segment. So let's get this rolling.
I have a landline too.
I think it goes with old age or something.
Really? We can't. Old habits die hard.
Question 1 for Ken. Luke from Claire asked, today in 2009, 3 Wings went into the Hall with Brett Hall, Luc Robitaille, and Steve Yzerman. Do you think we'll ever see 3 teammates get inducted together?
Well, first and foremost, let me get on my telegraph machine here, since I'm that old, and I can look at it a little bit differently. But you know what? It really is difficult when players are selected into the Hall of Fame to be able to play on the same team. And, back in 2002, that Red Wing team was so star-studded with Brett Hull, as we see right here, and Luc Robitaille, Steve Yzerman. I mean, these guys were terrific hockey players, not only with the Red Wings, but with other teams around the National Hockey League. Hull with, of course, the Dallas Stars and also the St. Louis Blues, and Luc Robitaille for many years with the Los Angeles Kings. Now, there's 4 players that I think should be in the Hall of Fame or could possibly be in the Hall of Fame that were former Red Wings. And I'll name them. Curtis Joseph, the goaltender, who should be in. He should have been in a long time ago, but I don't know why he's not in. Pat Verbeek, the Red Wings assistant general manager, he should be in, scored over 500 career goals. Henrik Zetterberg, who we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think eventually he's going to get in. And, of course, Chris Osgood, who had over 400 wins in his National Hockey League career. Now, it's possible that one of those goaltenders plus Verbeek and Zetterberg perhaps could make it in, and you could all see all 3 of them, former Red Wings, being inducted at the same time. But I don't really see it happening just because of the fact that it's so difficult. And, if they select a goaltender, usually it's just one goaltender, not 2. So I would say probably not.
Lots of discussion on how many Red Wings that we think should still be in the Hall of Fame. Like you said, Curtis Joseph, Chris Osgood. I know Art's very passionate about that one, so we're not going to get into it. Art, we're going to get into your mailbag question number 2. I'm not letting you. Nope, that would take too long. Katie from Madison Heights asks, Tigers added some coaches to the staff last week. Which one will make the biggest impact?
Well, I think all of them are going to have a profound impact on the team. I think these were all very, very good and excellent hires, but I think you really have to go with what the Tigers have done and where they have done their resources and put a lot of their resources in and a lot of their drafting. I think you have to go with Chris Fetter, the pitching coach. This was a fella, if he didn't take the Detroit job, if the Tigers job, and that was A.J. Hinch's first thing. I think, no sooner was he named manager, he told Al Avila, we got to get Chris Fetter in here. And, because Chris Fetter was going to leave the University of Michigan. Sorry, Wolverine fans, but that was just a fact. I mean, he was that hot of a commodity. And I think with the young arms and the young staff and all the wealth of pitching that the Tigers have, I think that he is without a doubt going to have the biggest impact. And I liked his press conference. I like what he had to say about getting to know the guys and having them trust him. And I just think without, and George Lombard too. I mean, I've got to say something. Here's a guy who, interviewed for the job, didn't get it. Now he's the bench coach, which is kind of like second in charge. I get that. But I think it tells you two things. Number one, it tells you where maybe the Tigers are at in the world of baseball as far as people that know the game and that are in the game. They know the Tigers are up and coming. They know that they have a lot of good prospects. So these fellas all want to, maybe be part of that, because if you're part of that, that would lead maybe eventually to a managerial job or whatever your aspirations are in baseball. So I look at it that way. And I also look at it as I said earlier, a testimony to AJ Hinch and what these fellas think of him as a manager, willing to come to Detroit and have him be, essentially their boss. So, but again, I know I've kind of went, a little bit all over, because the more I think about it, the more excited I am kind of really getting about this upcoming baseball season. But I think Chris Fetter, the pitching coach, especially with the resources that the Tigers get. What's also interesting too is that Scott Colbaugh, who is the hitting coach, was the White Sox hitting coach, and I think only for a year. But he knows those young hitters. And let's face it, 1 through 9, Chicago's lineup is, a modern-day murderer's row almost. With all that said, I'm not so sure that a couple of those pitching meetings, Chris Fetter and Scott Colbaugh are going to be in there, especially when they play the White Sox and say, well, this dude, you know what I mean? So I just like this mix. I think it's good. I think they're all going to have an impact. But Chris Fetter is definitely the one that I think, because of where the Tigers put all the resources, it's the pitching coach. Chris Fetter, former University of Michigan star on the field, and obviously a great coach for Michigan as well.
Art, you also have to know Juan Nieves being promoted to assistant pitching coach, because AJ Hinch made it very clear that he was excited about the duo. Obviously, Chris Fetter being the pitching coach, but he was very excited to bring them both in together.
I agree with that. That's an excellent point. I read a nice story in the Toledo Blade about that hire, and it was very, very impressive. And I like this staff for its diversity. And I also like this staff for what they bring, and many of them are coming from organizations that have won championships. They get it, they understand it, and for a young team like the Tigers are, and only going to get younger once you unleash the torque and you bring in Riley Green and Faedo and Manning. I mean, if you look at this, maybe hopefully Franklin Perez, I haven't given up on him. I mean, there's a lot to like about the Tigers. Let's be honest. There really, truly is. And even though they were 9 games under 500 last year, it was an exciting season. I enjoyed all 58 games, except for maybe that Milwaukee game where they lost, 100-0. But thank God my power went out that day. So, but except maybe for that game, I thought all the other ones were pretty entertaining.
They were. We forget about that one, Art. Moving on to the third question. And Ken, this one is for you. And Dave from Plymouth asks, with the cap space available and the big name RFAs like Barzell, Sergachev, Dubois, Sorelli still unsigned, does Yzerman throw out an offer sheet? Interesting.
It is interesting, and those are really good, strong players that would help any team, and no doubt that they would be players that could help the Red Wings at this point. But again, we all talked about the so-called Yzer plan, and that's all about building through the draft and securing draft choices and trying to get as many as you can to build for the future. And what would happen if you sign one of those players, you would lose some of those draft choices, and I don't think that's the direction that the Red Wings would like to go in right now. They want to build through the draft. They want to develop their young players and really do it the right way. And sometimes when you throw an offer sheet out there, and I'm not a big fan of offer sheets anyway, but if you throw one out there, that could disrupt everything. And then everything that you've wanted to secure in the future, goes by the wayside. I think down the road, if the Red Wings were, let's say, needed a final piece to the puzzle or final couple of pieces to the puzzle, maybe they would venture into something like this. But I don't really see it right now, not with the way we've been seeing how Steve Yzerman has been acting as far as a general manager, not signing players to long-term deals, getting them for the Detroit hometown discount, so to speak, and also just trying to plug holes until they can get these young players developed and ready so that they can step into the lineup. So I don't see it happening.
Ken, we've talked a lot about this here on the Word on Woodward, that maybe if there is another move that Steve Yzerman wants to make, it will be more like a Mark Stahl deal, where it's a team that needs to get rid of a contract for cap space reasons and all of those things. So yes, I think that I agree with you. I don't think he's going to, even look at an offer sheet really. And I think that if there is another deal, it will be more like Mark Stahl. And that leads us into our fourth and final question, with which Art, you can answer first. Lisa from Inkster asked, oh my gosh, which Wings addition will make the biggest impact on the youngsters on our team? Is it Bobby Ryan or Mark Stahl?
That's a very, very good question. That is really a tough one to answer because, they're both veterans. They both are proven in this league. And Mark Stahl maybe is not the offensive player and his skills might be eroding a little bit, but he is great in his own end and he's a supreme penalty killer. And the Red Wings, as Kenny, they need help, on the penalty kill. So, I look at him and I think, my gosh, he could really be a great influence, especially when you look at the Red Wing prospects, and maybe the defensive core might be a little bit more ready to play. Some of those guys might be inserted into the lineup a little bit sooner. I guess I'm really thinking of Mo Seider, whom I believe, whenever the season starts and his season's done in Sweden, I think he's on the Detroit roster. I think that's great, but I think I'm going to go with Bobby Ryan. And this is really, really close. It's like, we're waiting. I'll tell you, now I know how people were feeling waiting for Pennsylvania to come in. I'm just nip and tuck on this one. I'm thinking, okay, man, Stahl or Ryan. I'm going to go with Bobby Ryan. And the reason I am is because Bobby Ryan is an offensive juggernaut. He's scored a lot of goals in this league. I think that he's a really, really good player. He's motivated and he has something to prove. And I think that, whether he stays in first of all, and I think Ken might agree with this. I think both of these guys could be traded at the trade deadline for assets. I think they could trade him for draft picks or something if they pan out well. But I really think that Bobby Ryan gives them a dimension on the power play and something to prove, and they need goal scoring. They really, really need goal scoring. He should be effective on the power play. So I'll say from that aspect, and there'll be some young forwards on this team, and and he can only help Mantha and Larkin and Bertuzzi because and Fabre too. We always forget about Robbie. Is that because he's been there, he's done it, he has a proven track record. So these guys, even though they're all kind of accomplished in their own way, they're going to listen to him. They're going to listen to him. They're going to watch him, and he's on a mission to prove that he still has more hockey. So by the slightest of margins, I'm going to go with Bobby Ryan. Although Mark Stahl, I think, I keep saying this. That was a brilliant move by Steve Yzerman. He took advantage of the system, and I agree with you, Daniela. If he makes another move, it's going to be a Stahl type of deal. Some team's going to have to salary dump. They're going to get a nice veteran player that they can move at the deadline for more assets. I think that's the way the Red Wings will go.
Definitely. And like you said, that is a really close call because Bobby Ryan and Mark Stahl can impact different players in different ways. Like when you're talking about defensemen, Peronic and maybe Moritz Seider if we see him in Detroit. But Ken, which one do you think? Is it Bobby Ryan or is it Mark Stahl?
I like them both, like Art said, but I'm going to go with Mark Stahl just because of the fact that the Red Wings need some help back there on the blue line. And what the Red Wings are getting is a solid veteran player who knows how to play the game in his own end. And I was just looking over his stats, and he's been a plus player, probably playing on a better team than the Red Wings over the last couple of years, but he's been a plus player in 5 of his last 6 seasons. So the problem the Red Wings I saw the last couple of years is sometimes, when the pressure was on them, the defenseman had a hard time getting that puck to the forwards. Well, when you get a guy like Mark Stahl in there who's a veteran who knows how to play in his own end, and pretty solid defensively, he's going to make the right play. And I've always said, and this is why we were so blessed in Detroit with guys like Rafalski and Lidstrom and Brad Stewart, is they made that great first pass out of their own zone. And when you get a defenseman who can do that and get the puck to the forwards, you're out of your zone in a hurry. You're not many bad things can happen. So he's that type of player. And with his veteran leadership back there, he can help some of the guys, even like a Roenick who's starting to come of age, and I expect him to improve. And if Mo Seider comes in and maybe a couple of other youngsters get there on the blue line, he can really help them out. I think he's going to be a big impact on the blue line for the Red Wings, and he's going to be a fan favorite here in Detroit.
Couldn't agree with you more, Ken. I think both of them are going to make very big impacts on this team and even some of the other free agent signings too. It's going to be exciting to see what this season brings the Detroit Red Wings. Ken, I'm going to let you get off here. I know you got to call your agent back and it's a beautiful day. So who knows, you might be taking your boat out for all we know in November here.
I'm gonna tell him that I'm enjoying working on the WoW show here, and I can't wait for the season to start and get back calling some hockey games for the Red Wings.
Remember, hold out, Kenny. Play hardball. Play hardball. You're a superstar, Ken.
Nope, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. I'm with the Iser plan. I want to call another Stanley Cup championship here.
Heck yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Hey, look at that. Well, thank you, Ken. We'll be talking to you very soon. And a big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag. As always, Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. You guys, we still have a very packed show for you. Max Bultman of The Athletic will join us later to talk some more Red Wings hockey. And for the baseball side, we'll have Evan Woodbury of MLive joining us, and Art will be joined by Sean Casey of MLB Network and former Tiger for the headliner. But right now, Carly's going to continue that baseball talk.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Detroit Tigers outfielder prospect, Daniel Cabrera. How's it going, Daniel?
Going good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Thank you for asking. All right. First things first, let's clear the air. Are you or are you not related to Miggy?
I am not. No, I am not related to him. That would be cool if I was, but I'm not.
Hey, same last name. You never know. All right. Now that we have that cleared up, you're down in Lakeland right now for instructional camp. How's that going?
It went awesome. It was a blessing to be able to do stuff with the guys and meet all the coaching staff, and it was so much fun. I was happy we were able to do it.
Very cool. I love the silver lining of it. What did your day-to-day look like in camp?
My day went, I would wake up, go to Dunkin' Donuts, grab some coffee, go to the field. We did like a commute thing, which was kind of like stretching, get your body going. Dynamic warm up. Then we did like some throwing, some skill stuff, so outfield work and batting practice. And some days we would have like a scrimmage, and some days we wouldn't. But it was pretty laid back. It was a good experience for sure.
So you're back home. Are you in Louisiana, where you're from?
Yeah, I'm in Louisiana. I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now. Yep.
Okay, so the weather's not too different.
No, it's pretty similar. Just when I got back, it hasn't stopped really raining and it's muggy outside. Lakeland was it didn't rain much, honestly, while I was up there. It probably only rained like 3 or 4 days in a month.
That's pretty rare in Florida. It's 70 something here in Michigan today. Pretty rare. So anyway, talking about camp, what did you focus on improving during your time at camp, and what do you think you did improve on? Is it the same?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get going. I haven't been able to play since March, and it's probably the longest time I've had off with not playing. So I just kind of wanted to just get going and see some pitching, be around the guys, be in that team atmosphere again. It's a little different than just like, working out, hitting on your own, lifting on your own. So it was cool to be kind of around that. I feel like I did well. It's tough that we didn't get too many at bats because there's like the protocol with the coronavirus. There was like only a certain amount of people you can have at the whole camp. So we didn't get too many at bats, which I wish we would have been able to get more, but I totally understand. But no, I just kind of being back on the baseball field, playing in the uniform, being around the guys, being that team aspect, that was kind of the best part about it, I thought.
Love it. We'll touch on that break from baseball in just a second, but how cool was it getting to play with a lot of the other prospects that you may not have played with before?
Oh, it was awesome. That was definitely like the first time I've met Riley Green and Parker Meadows and playing outfield with them. I felt like we gelled well together, and honestly, meeting every single guy there, everybody was humble and super nice, and I can see the Tigers organization doing big things within a few years. I thought everybody
Love
was first class, and I'm excited.
Sorry to cut you off there. I love it because it's really cool to see you guys all working together because hopefully somewhere down the line you guys will be our Detroit Tigers. And let's talk about how you got here. Your draft wasn't like the rest in 2020, having been during a pandemic. But what was your draft day like and how did you feel that day?
Yeah, it was crazy because I would be the first to tell you, and a lot of people, I wasn't expecting to be available at pick 62. I thought I was going to be a late first day, early second day pick, and it was just kind of mixed emotions. I was kind of like, why am I not getting picked? What's going on? Then all of a sudden, I saw the Tigers pick me, and I saw Curtis Granderson break my game down on the TV, and it was just yeah, all the bad feelings, all the nervousness went away, and it was just a blessing to see my name get called on TV and by an organization like the Detroit Tigers who have a good rep for their name, and so I'm excited to get going and play for a first class organization.
Very cool. Very happy to have you. I feel like drafting may be the same whether it's virtual or in person. You still get that excitement.
Yeah, for sure. When you see your name on a TV or hear it when it's on TV and you have your friends and family around you, it's definitely a very fun time.
Awesome. Well, as you know, you're drafted by the Tigers after your junior year with the Tigers, but of Louisiana
Yeah,
State University. Very funny how you
yeah.
went from the Tigers to the Tigers. You were unable to finish out the season, as you had mentioned prior. Do you think that affected your growth and development at all?
I don't know if it affected my growth and development. I felt like I was where I needed to be to have a successful year. I've always felt like I was a mature baseball player. I kind of have a good head on my shoulders. I know what I'm doing. I play the game smart. But it just sucked because I feel like this year was our year to make a run in Omaha. Unfortunately I did not go to Omaha in my first 2 years, and I thought this was the year that we were going to make a run for. We just had young talent that was helping out. We had veteran guys, and I thought this was our year. We were loaded, and the team gelled well, and we connected really well. So I thought this was the year to go to Omaha, but it just sucks.
I know. It's one of those, it's a bummer in every which way possible this year. But looking
I
forward,
know, 2020 is crazy.
yeah, looking forward. I saw you posted pictures on Instagram yesterday after instructional camp with the number
Yeah,
17 on your back. That was the first picture I
I
saw on your
know.
Instagram with that jersey. Is there a reason you chose that number?
That's just the number that I had in my locker waiting for me. So
Okay.
we had so many guys. I don't think anybody really had to pick their number, but I'm just happy to have my last name and I got a number. I'm just excited
Yeah,
to do something.
a different Cabrera jersey. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. And as I was saying before, let's talk about when things get back to normal. And you're playing ball in the Detroit Tigers organization, normal games, normal season. What are you hoping to accomplish for yourself and for your team?
I'm just trying to just keep developing as a baseball player, get better in all aspects. I feel like you can't stop improving. I'm not perfect at anything. I feel like I can get better at hitting, getting stronger, getting faster, better outfielder, better arm. So just kind of taking it day by day, trying to get better every day, not trying to get too crazy. And I tell myself it's a marathon, not a sprint. Just get better every single day, and I mean, put out goals for the end of the season, and you kind of hope to reach them. But if you don't, kind of step back, you look at your results and say, how can I get better at this? And just honestly, just taking it day by day and improving on and off the field.
Awesome. Okay. And when the day comes where you are playing with Miggy, because we know it will happen, will you have D. Cabrera on your back or will you have Cabrera Jr.?
Whatever they put on my jersey.
You'll take
hopefully
anything.
Hopefully I don't have to stand next to him too much because he's a giant. Make me feel small. They'll put Cabrera Jr. on it if I have to stand next to him too long.
Yes, I love it. Well, I can't wait until that day and we see you rocking the Old English D on your chest. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank y'all for having me.
Daniel, once again, thank you for joining me on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Carly. I think we're all really excited to see what Daniel Cabrera brings to the Tigers organization. Carly's going to stay with us, you guys, because it is time for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. You guys, in case you didn't know already, tomorrow is Veterans Day. So today's Bet You Didn't Know is going to focus on some former Tigers that also served in the military. Art, I'm going to let you kick this one off. You started off with one of our Tigers that actually served in the military as well.
Thank you there, Daniela. First of all, in honor of the veterans, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. I got this hat a couple of years ago at a big box store, and it's amazing how many people misread this hat. It says United States of America. Virtually everybody thinks it says something else. It's amazing. You can do some sort of psychological exam about what your eyes, what you're reading, and what you're thinking, but this is for the veterans. I salute you, fellas. I'm going to talk about Hammer and Hank. Of course, Hank Greenberg, the original number 5. Number 5 is an iconic number here in Detroit, obviously because of Nick Lindstrom. But Hank Greenberg also wore number 5. His number was retired. And I like this. We call this Bet You Didn't Know, but these are things you should know. Hank Greenberg is a Hall of Famer, 2-time MVP, 5-time All-Star. He led the Tigers to 2 World Series titles in 1935 and 45. But what many do not know, he missed 4 years of his baseball career in his prime. If you look at it, I think he played a total of 12 years, 11 with the Tigers, but right in the middle, I think in 1941, he played like 10 games or something, and then there's a 3-year gap. Why? Because he went and served his country. He said, I'm paraphrasing him, baseball's important, but serving my country comes first. That's the type of guy Hammer and Hank was. Now, he was discharged. He served. What was really weird was he served and he was classified as 4F for flat feet, which meant that there was some sort of, people thought, oh, maybe he bribed him or something. It wasn't bone spurs, but it was flat feet. Maybe something else is going on. And, so Hank then got reclassified because he didn't bribe anybody. He wanted to serve his country. He then served his country. He was then classified as up for duty. Or fit for duty, which he did do. 2 days after he was honorably discharged, Pearl Harbor is attacked. He served his time. Remember, he served his time. He served his country. What did Hammer and Hank do? He re-enlisted, went to officers' candidate school, and was commissioned as a first lieutenant in the Army Air Corps, which is now today's Air Force. He then serves his country again, comes back. He served now a total, get this, 47 months in military service, longer than any other Major League Baseball player. He comes back. It's 1945, July 1st. He hits a home run. From that moment on, the Tigers stage a gallant comeback, win the American League pennant based on the leadership of Hammer and Hank Greenberg, and then defeat the Chicago Cubs in the World Series. What type of player was he? I think that about says it all. He's gone. He's gone for 4 solid seasons, comes back and leads his team to the pennant and a World Series championship. Now, and I want you to look, he was also the first player that registered for the draft. So he registered. He was the first major league player. Now, I don't know what it was like in the 1940s. Believe it or not, I'm not that old. So I don't know, but I would imagine it was a much more patriotic time, and but he was the guy that stepped up. He was making a lot of money. He was a star at that point, and he went to serve his country. Now listen to this. His base, he finished with a batting average of 313, 331 home runs, 1,274 runs batted in, and 1,628 hits. Now, almost all of those were done as a Tiger. He played 1 year with Pittsburgh, his final year, but his Tiger stats, 319 average, 306 home runs, 1,200 runs batted in, 1,528 hits. You add in those 4 years that he missed, over 500 home runs, easy. Does he get to 3,000 hits? I'm going to say he gets really close to 3,000 hits. Not only is he immortal of his sport already, because he is, but those 4 years taken away because, to quote Hammer and Hank, my country comes first. God bless him, man. One of the best, not only Tigers, but one of the best players of all time. I love the guy. I mean, my family were big Hank Greenberg fans. I heard about Hank Greenberg my whole life. And for him to do that, to take away 4 years, another guy who did that too was Ted Williams. Ted Williams also served his country. I mean, there were several of them, and I wish I could name them all off. But but right at the top of the class, right at the front, the guy who was first in line was Detroit Tigers' own, because he's from New York City. So if you're from New York City, I'm a New Yorker. But but aside from that, Hank Greenberg, Detroit Tigers' own. God love you, Hank. I can go on and on and on, so I'll be quiet.
I love the passion art. That was great. Great job. Carly, good luck following that up. And I know that you have not exactly a player that served, but another tie between the Tigers and our military.
Yes, can't exactly follow that. We all know Hammer Hank was one of the greats, but we will talk about Lakeland, Florida. We all know that is where spring training happens for the Tigers. However, before it was Tiger Town, if you will, it was a training ground for over 8,000 pilots in the U.S. Army Air Corps from 1940 to 1945. The training ground also trained some British pilots from the Royal Air Force as well. And in 1953, the Tigers began holding their spring training there and eventually built the entire Tiger Town complex on the same site. And the legacy could be seen as runways were still a part of the complex into the 2000s. And there are 3 arched roof hangars that have been renovated from the original airport that still exists today. So it's really cool to be able to see that kind of history there. And the Tigers also gave a nod to the site's legacy with the name of the Tigers Florida State League affiliate, the Lakeland Flying Tigers. It's a cool nod to the history of the area and an honor for the people who worked and trained there, of course. But Daniela, I know you have something else in honor of Veterans Day that you want to talk about.
Yes, and I'm going to go way back for this one. So Veterans Day lines up with the end of World War I. So we're talking all the way back to 1912 for this one. And we're going to take a look at Robert Bontroy. He had a strange path to the big leagues, being born in southern Germany before his family immigrated to Pennsylvania when he was young. He was pitching in Frank Nevin's hometown of Adrian when he was noticed before getting his shot to pitch for the Tigers. He lost his only appearance for the Tigers against Hall of Famer Walter Johnson. Unfortunately, this is not exactly how we remember him, but for something much greater. Troy became a sergeant in the U.S. Army and led his men in in the battle of, oh man, I'm going to mispronounce this. I've been trying to pronounce this all day long. Mace Argonne offensive. The battle is the second deadliest next to the invasion of Normandy. Sadly, Bontroy was killed during this battle and is one of only 12 Major League Baseball players who died during military service. As we look towards tomorrow, Veterans Day is for everyone who has served in the U.S. military. So we would like to thank all of our current and former military viewers for their service. And of course, those who don't watch the show, we love you too. We got to show you love, all of our veterans and those who currently serve. Happy Veterans Day on behalf of everybody here on the Word on Woodward.
Absolutely. Happy Veterans Day.
Are you keeping that?
Only for this segment for consistency. But it will come off. It's definitely
really becoming a broadcaster.
For this segment, I put it on. It's serving a purpose for people just tuning in. Why is he wearing that Make America? Oh, wait a second. It says United States of America. United States of America. But I'm telling you, it's weird.
Country.
It's weird. It's about our country. This is about the United States of America. We all live there, right? See? United States.
Art is on
America.
So thank you to all veterans, of course, and those who currently serve as well. That does it for this edition of Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook. Bet You Didn't Know is presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. Speaking of social media, I know Carly has something really cool to show us today.
That is right. We talked a lot about the Tigers and veterans. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a Veterans Day with everything the Tiger has history with active serving military in the MLB. They wanted to do something to give back. So check out this video that they posted on social.
So today we're here with the Tigers Foundation and the VA hospital, and we're distributing food to veterans in need.
You still got the muscles. There you go.
Yeah. Each food box provides up to 22 adult meals, and it's certainly helping those folks who are experiencing some food insecurities at this time of year.
Okay, you're all set. Thank you. We appreciate the Detroit Tigers stepping in to help in this effort. This program was supposed to end in October, but it was extended due to their graciousness and their willingness to step up and help our veterans. Today, we've distributed over 175 boxes.
Nationally, there's some statistics that say that veterans, about half of them are living paycheck to paycheck. So they're already having an issue with making ends meet. And food's a big factor there.
My Tiger boy.
Yeah. Some veterans are in tears when they come and pick up the food boxes. It means that much to them.
If anybody deserves it, the frontline workers and their veterans deserve more of our attention, more of our financial support, more of our emotional support, I think, than anybody else in our country. What they did for us allows you and I to do what we're doing here today. For me, it's emotional, not just because of the link I had to my father and my brother who fought in Desert Storm, but just recognizing these men and women and what they've done and how much they've meant to our country goes a long, long way.
Mittens for Detroit is a 501c3 nonprofit that's been around since 2010. We have been very hard hit by COVID-19. We rely on the public to donate pairs of mittens and gloves in a public collection that usually brings in about 32,000 pairs. This year, because of the health concerns around COVID, we were not able to do our collection. So this grant from the Detroit Tigers Foundation was such an amazing thing for us to be able to not only buy all of these gloves, but to get them on the hands of veterans so early and in time for Veterans Day.
Every year they participate with us where they send tickets and invite the veteran to their event and provide luncheon and goodies to them. So without the Tiger, we couldn't done that on our own.
A lot of times our veterans feel that things are just given to them, but it's something that they earn. And the Tigers really have shown that they care about them, they appreciate what they've done as far as setting the pathway of freedom for everybody.
Amazing to see the Tigers getting involved in giving back to the veterans, people who serve for our country. So once again, happy Veterans Day, happy early Veterans Day. Pivoting into the Detroit Red Wings, they posted an awesome video of someone who we lost, the great Alex Trebek, asking a Jeopardy question. Let's check it out.
All-Star 1000. Starting in 1948, this Mr. Hockey was named to a record 21 NHL All-Star teams. Roger.
Who is Howe?
Gordie Howe, my hero.
Gordie Howe, my hero, and Alex Trebek, you are one of my heroes, a guy that I've watched all my childhood and more. So rest in peace, Alex Trebek. We will miss you, but make sure you're sending in questions for the later Let's Socialize in the show. We can answer them. Send in questions, comments. You can send them in on my Instagram or hashtag Word on Woodward. Daniela?
Thank you, Carly. Those were both very sweet. Love the stuff the Tigers are doing in honor of Veterans Day and our veterans. And of course, Alex Trebek, Oh, it's so sad, but yes, that was great. Very cool. It's a part of our childhood, and definitely will be missed. So RIP Alex. And now we are going to move on. Again, Carly, thank you. Make sure you guys are using the hashtag Word on Woodward, and she will get to all of your questions, thoughts, comments later in the show. We still have Max Bultman, who's going to join us to talk some Red Wings hockey, and later Art will be joined by Sean Casey, former Tiger and current MLB analyst for the headliner. Right now, we are going to get into Brush Street Beat. It's time for Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. And today's guest is a returning guest, Evan Woodbury of MLive, Tigers writer. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today.
Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you, and there's quite a bit of Tigers news to talk about. After hiring AJ Hinch, the Tigers have made some more changes to their coaching staff, including the hiring of Chris Fetter as the pitching coach. He spent the last 3 seasons with Michigan, the University of Michigan's baseball team. What do you make of the hire?
I thought it was really interesting and really intriguing, and probably one of those things that, only a couple of years ago you wouldn't even talk about the idea of a college coach making the jump to the big leagues. It just wasn't something done. It wasn't in the culture of baseball. But, as the technology increased, colleges in a lot of ways were more on the forefront than some of the big league organizations. And so what happened was a lot of college coaches were learning a lot of the technology. We're really up to date on a lot of the technology, on a lot of the new stuff. And you have a guy with a track record like Chris Fetter, who had helped a lot of pitchers, who was gaining a reputation nationally. And suddenly a lot of major league teams were calling him. So I think it was just a great situation all the way around, where you have, obviously the Tigers are just down the street for him. He doesn't even have to sell his house in Ann Arbor. He can just commute from there. And then he's got a long-standing relationship with AJ Hinch. So it was a perfect combination to get really one of the better respected college coaches in the nation. And I think it kind of sets a good tone for the entire coaching staff, that they're willing to not consider just the typical candidate, but to really look far and wide and consider a guy that has a really innovative track record and a really strong reputation as one of the better young coaches in baseball.
Evan, I think you kind of touched upon it when you said, innovation, and we hear analytics, and we hear that, for years, maybe the Tigers were a little bit behind the curve. And now with, and we had the gentleman on, I can't remember his name now, from USC, who was really into the analytics and brought the Tigers into this century. What I'm curious about for old codgers like myself is that, I always looked at ERA or batting average and power numbers, and I determined whether a player was good or not. Can you talk about this advancement for a lot of people? They hear about analytics, but I think, and honestly, they're not really sure what exactly are you saying.
Right. And I think it's one of those terms that is now used so often that it's almost kind of lost its meaning, because it can mean a lot of different things. I think the most interesting thing that Chris Fetter said during his introductory press conference was, in a lot of ways, analytics is just giving new language to something that coaches have known for 30 years, or it's giving them a way to see with data things that they've known for years and years. In other words, a coach that has coached pitching for 30 years can watch a guy pitch and say, wow, that's a really nasty curveball. But now you can say, okay, here's the number of the spin. Here's the spin rate on the curveball. Here's how it compares to the other top 100 prospects in baseball right now. Here's how it compares to everyone else in the organization. You can even go deeper and say, okay, going to the Dominican Republic in our Dominican Academy, here's how it compares there. So it gives you a way of saying, instead of, wow, this is a really nasty curveball, or you can actually say, with data, he has the most spins than anyone in our entire organization, and we have all this data to prove it. Or we can say, wow, his curveball is spinning at a rate dramatically different than it was last year. What happened? Or he's going in the wrong direction last year. What happened? I think it just, as this data accumulates and they have all these ways of charting it and developing it over time, I think it's just kind of a different way of analyzing what was always there, but it just is more precise now. And I think that's something that he did it really well at Michigan is take that information and apply it to players. I think that was another interesting thing that he said in the press conference, is his experience with the Los Angeles Dodgers was they had a lot of really smart guys with the Los Angeles Dodgers who are developing a lot of really great data, a lot of information, but they were trying to find a way to bring it to players. And that's the big part of it, is to kind of find that link. Is if you have books and reams of information, spreadsheets, data, video, that's all great, but unless you can convey it to players in a way that can help them in a meaningful way, it's utterly useless. And I think that's where his skills will also pay off, and that he has, the quote unquote old school track record. He's been a pitcher, he's been a coach, he has a lot of experience on both sides, but he can also use some of that new technology and new data to help them make it work in real life scenarios.
Evan, Juan Nieves was also named the assistant pitching coach right there with Chris Fetter. And you're talking about that press conference. AJ Hinch made it very clear. He also spoke during that press conference that he wanted this coaching tandem, this duo together. And it was one of his first tasks that he wanted to take care of as the Tigers manager. What is it about Juan Nieves and him and Fetter together that you think AJ Hinch likes so much?
Yeah, I noticed that as well, that really, realistically, it was a press conference about Chris Fetter, but AJ Hinch really took great pains to mention Juan Nieves and say that he is a big part of this puzzle as well. And I wish I could remember who gave me this anecdote, but it was last year at some point, and it was one of the pitchers that was talking about Juan Nieves, and it wasn't a top prospect. It was just a guy that was at AAA Toledo, and he said something along the lines of, Juan Nieves is the type of guy, he puts in so much work that he will pull an all-nighter looking at video, looking at the opposing team, trying to come up with a game plan. If he thinks it'll help make his pitcher just a little bit better in that next start, that he is so invested in his pitcher's success and wants so badly for them to have success that, pitchers see that, they appreciate that, they see how hard he's working, they see the buy-in that he has, and that's the way that you build loyalty. I mean, everything I've heard from the pitchers that have worked under him, that's what they speak about, is his work ethic and the fact that he really, really wants to see them succeed. So I was not surprised when they found a way to get him to the big league level, because I knew organizationally they really liked Juan Nieves a lot. And this is kind of a good fit in that, he is going to go work in the bullpen during games, but not necessarily be a bullpen coach per se. They made a real point of saying he's the assistant pitching coach. And I think the reason they wanted to say that was to say he's going to be right there with Chris Fetter, involved in both the hands-on coaching, as well as the data, as well as the video, as well as all that stuff. And that he's going to be active with pitchers, both starters and relievers, because he does have that track record of being a big league coach that gives him credibility with the veterans, but also being there in Toledo, which means he knows personally just about every one of the Tigers' young pitchers.
Another hire that kind of caught, I think, everyone's eye because he interviewed for the managerial job is George Lombard as the bench coach. Again, I don't want to keep dating myself here, but, before, I guess the pitching coach was always pretty important. And then it was like, the manager then had all his drinking buddies surround him. And that was your first base coach, your third, it was like a boys club. That's not how it is. But getting Lombard right now has got to be, I don't know. Is that a coup? It sure seems like a coup for me.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are really considered, obviously they just won the World Series and they have a ton of money to spend, but because they have a ton of money to spend, they're not just spending it on free agents, they're spending it on the entire infrastructure from top to bottom. So they're considered really one of the most progressive and forward-thinking organizations because they have tons of resources to throw at everything. So to get somebody who's considered a rising star in that organization, I think is a really big hire. And from George Lombard's perspective, you'd say, okay, well, why is he leaving the Dodgers who just won the World Series? It's because you mentioned it as the bench coach. It's like the second in command. It's the guy that sits next to the manager. It's the guy that when the manager's ejected, he becomes the manager. And generally, it's you're going to get those interviews for manager jobs when you're the bench coach because you've been considered the second in command at that point. So I think it's good for George Lombard's career to take this job. I think it shows a willingness for AJ Hinch to go outside his comfort zone and not just get his buddy, like you said, to be the bench coach, but to get somebody that's considered really a rising star in this business and very well might leave within a year or two to be a manager after having taken this job.
Well, Evan, it really seems like the coaching staff is coming together here very shortly after AJ Hinch was named the manager. One other question I want to touch on with you is the free agency market right now. We know that teams can now talk to other teams, but we haven't seen very much action when it comes to that. When do you think that will start? Maybe not even just for the Tigers, but really for the MLB in general.
Well, it's interesting. I thought this would be very, very late this year just because of the uncertainty of 2021 and a million other factors. There was one signing that caught my eye, and that was only because I had him on a list of guys that Tigers should target, and I had to take him off the list because he signed abruptly, and that was Robbie Ray, who was a Tigers prospect once upon a time, was now a free agent left-handed pitcher, and he went to the Toronto Blue Jays for, I think, 1 year, $8 million or so, which is a pretty good deal to get this early in the process. And to me, what that shows me is that, yes, a lot of teams are going to be waiting until the very end, but also because the players know that so many teams are going to be waiting until the very end. If you make a fair deal to a player right now, even though it's very early in the process, they may be liable to take it and say, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to wait until January or February, see what happens. Because of the uncertainty in this climate, if you make a reasonable offer, there may be a guy that takes it right now, whereas in a normal year, they'd say, no, thanks, I'd like to wait and see how the market develops. So we'll see if that is a factor at all, because I think the Tigers have a couple of guys that might be on their list who are probably just 1 year contract type guys. And if you want them and you want to make a 1 year offer and make a fair deal, and maybe they're not going to hold out and wait for that second year or wait for a few extra $1 million. Maybe they'll be willing to sign right now, just because it's not just the owners and the GMs that are dealing with that uncertainty. The players are dealing with that uncertainty too. And I think that's going to make this a really unpredictable type free agency, an unpredictable winter, because no one is really sure what's going to happen or when it's going to happen.
Evan, very, very quickly, I've got my whole family just psyched because I keep talking about this. So yes or no, when the season starts, whenever that is next year, is James McCann the Tigers catcher?
From what I've read, he's holding out for his goal is a 2 year deal. And I think the Tigers, if they go and sign a catcher, would probably be looking for more of a 1 year guy. So I think it's possible. I think the Tigers still love James McCann. I think he still loves Detroit. But I think where he is coming off a really strong year, I think he's going to try to maximize his value as much as possible in free agency. And I'm not sure there's going to be a match there with the Tigers.
Just crushing Art's entire family's hope.
Oh, man. A lot of priests, too, that I know love James McCann. They all want him to be a Tiger again.
He's a good guy. He was fun to cover. I'd love to have him back as well. But, we'll see. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be an unpredictable winter. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. It's already shaping up to be an interesting offseason for the Tigers. So, Evan, we will definitely be keeping in touch with you as this offseason progresses. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And, of course, a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on the Word on Woodward. Another thank you to Evan for joining us today. And you guys, I want to remind you that if you have not got a flu shot yet and would like to get one, you can head down to Comerica Park right now until 6 p.m. for your free flu shot. Definitely something to consider if you have not had one yet. We will continue some Tigers baseball talk with Sean Casey later in the show for the headliner. But right now, we're going to get back into some Red Wings hockey. It's time for Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light, and today's guest, making his Word on Woodward debut, Max Bultman, the Red Wings writer for The Athletic. Max, thank you so much for joining us. We are really excited to have you today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
A lot of stuff to talk about because, like I said, this is your debut and writing about the Red Wings. You've been pretty busy, really, the past couple of months here. So let's start with free agency, since it seems like that has wrapped up and Steve Yzerman has made all of the moves that he wants to make. What do you think? Overall, what are your thoughts on what the Red Wings were able to acquire in free agency?
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with any one of the moves. I mean, there are 5 of them. It was Nemesnikov, Stetcher, Merrill, Bobby Ryan, and the goalie Thomas Greiss, which might have been the best signing of the bunch. And I think all really good value contracts. I mean, really short term. It's going to preserve a lot of flexibility. They're all should be upgrades somewhere in that lineup after last year. And so I think all 5 of those moves are solid to good. I think the profile that someone like John Merrill is going to bring should really help them keep, the dangerous chances down. That's an area they struggled with, I thought, a lot last season. And someone like Troy Stecher, who I was surprised was even available. I mean, he's a guy that can be a really good transition kind of two-way defenseman. So I think these are all guys that are going to help the Red Wings. And Steve Yzerman kind of even left the door cracked to making one more move in his last press conference. So there could still be one more hanging out there as things get closer to the start of training camp.
Max, do you think that move would be an unrestricted free agent, or do you think it might be more of a Mark Stahl deal where he takes on a contract only to move the guy at trade deadline for more assets? The Stahl trade by far, I think, is the most brilliant move that he was able to make.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's certainly from a rebuild perspective is the one that has the potential to help them down the line the most, right? And certainly if there's another deal like that, I think that's the move that makes the most sense the rest of the way here with the amount of cap space they have. Still a couple teams that have really obvious need to do something and get under the cap ceiling in Tampa Bay and the Islanders. But I could see it being either one, a free agent or a trade. I mean, it sounded like the other day that he was saying it had been quieter recently on the trade front. And, the free agent market has some really good players still on it that if they don't find a home before the start of training camp, maybe you could get a good player in for a low, kind of a 1-year deal just for them to get back to market next season. So if it were me, I would say that a trade to take on a cap hit and pick up another draft pick would be the best one more move they could make the rest of the way. But I don't think either one would really shock me at this point.
Max, we had Ken Kale talk about this earlier in our mailbag. The possibility of Steve Yzerman presenting an offer sheet for a restricted free agent. Is that something that you've even thought about?
You have to think about it, right? Because everyone's always talking about it. I do see it as unlikely because of what the compensation levels is. To pull something like that off, you pretty much have to be willing to give up at least one, usually more than one pretty good draft picks to make it work. There are some guys who maybe you can finesse given the current financial landscape for something less than that. But you have to think about it. And you have to think about all of them situation by situation. But I don't see it as particularly likely. And that's probably one of the reasons they're pretty rare. But certainly worth considering. And there may never be a better offseason to try it than this offseason.
Max, I don't know how many people know, but you're the pride of Grand Rapids. As soon as people drive into Grand Rapids, the welcome sign says "Home of Max." I mean, because you're a one-name celebrity in that town. That's why I'm going to ask you this question. We've been to many Griffin games together. What's the scuttlebutt in GR? Is there going to be an AHL season? What would you put the betting line at?
You probably know as much as I do on this one right now. I think, the projected start date is for February, and that sounds about right, but I haven't heard anything outside of that lately. And I think obviously the Red Wings may be one of the teams, maybe the team with the most interest in there being an AHL season, just because they're going to have so many guys there again. And I don't have a hard answer for you, unfortunately. And I also would say that I technically didn't live in the city of Grand Rapids when I was growing up. After I was like 10 or 11, we moved just outside the city limits. So they may have to update that sign.
What does your birth certificate say? What does your birth certificate say?
I was born in the city of Grand Rapids.
See, I was born in the city of Detroit, so yeah, that's your hometown, my friend. So
there you go.
Let's ask. I mean, you wrote a great piece along with Mr. Wheeler there for The Athletic about maybe timeline for some of the Red Wing prospects. I am really, really curious that, let's be honest here. Let's just put it to bed, Max. Mo Seider is a Red Wing whenever he comes back from Europe.
I think so, yeah. I mean, certainly toward the back half of last year, it looked like he was going to be ready for a late season call-up. And in Sweden so far, he really hasn't done anything to change that opinion. I mean, he's at a point per game, which he's probably not known as an offensive defenseman and isn't known as that. But, he's scoring like one in Sweden right now. So I think that when he comes over after he wraps up in Rogla, that he should go right to Detroit. I mean, he can go to Grand Rapids if he wants to kind of get a couple games under his feet on the small ice again before joining the Red Wings. But I don't see a point in holding him back if he keeps up like this.
Max, you also released a mailbag related to the Red Wings for The Athletic earlier today. And one of the things that you talked about were guys like Evgeny Svechnikov and Michael Rasmussen, who, of course, Michael Rasmussen is playing in Austria right now. But if there is no AHL season, what does the future look like for those guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because those are two of the guys who, when the Red Wings made all those signings this summer, you had to wonder about, because those are kind of the spots that got filled, were the spots for someone like Rasmussen and Svechnikov to make it right off the bat. They still could. They can always take a job, and certainly if you're the Red Wings, you have to hope for that. But yeah, I mean, if there's no AHL season, those guys get put into a pretty interesting spot. I mean, you can try and find another place for them, like the Red Wings have done with Joe Veleno or Moritz Seider, but the later it gets, probably the more difficult that gets. I mean, Rasmussen's playing in Austria right now. He actually had a pretty good day yesterday, 3-point day, 2 goals and an assist. But Svechnikov, I don't believe, is playing anywhere right now, and so maybe you just find a way to work it out and get him to Detroit, and get him games where you can, and maybe that accelerates their timeline. But yeah, whether it be in the AHL or the NHL, those guys are going to need games. And so that's one reason to really hope that if you're the Red Wings, that the AHL does come through.
When we look at the Red Wings, some of the other prospects that you wrote about, a guy who's really tearing it up right now, and if he can stay healthy, he hasn't played a whole lot of hockey the last couple of seasons, but Jonathan Berggren has been lights out. I mean, is it possible? Is that the player that maybe the Red Wings will catch a break on, and that his arrival could be sooner rather than later?
It's possible. I mean, talking to people over in Sweden who coach him and in his organization, he's taken a big step this year, and you can see that on the score sheet, obviously. But they say you also see it in just his style of play, and he's always been a player that had this talent level, right? Like when the Red Wings drafted him, you thought he had the potential to really be a scorer, and now he's kind of taken that step. You're right. I mean, if he continues at this pace and he's able to translate some of this stuff to the smaller ice where you have less room to make the kind of plays that he makes, then he is the kind of player that if he hits, that's the kind of player that takes your rebuild to the next level, because he's outside the first round. He's outside those top 10 picks. And Steve Yzerman has said, if you're going to rely on your first round pick hitting every year and not getting anyone outside that round, it's going to take a really long time. So yeah, I do think Berggren can be that player. And I think certainly from the way he started, is showing signs of trending that direction. Same really with Albert Johansson, who continues to impress. So a couple of guys there that were second round picks that are trending pretty favorably for Detroit and Sweden.
Max, let's wrap things up with a couple of questions about this year's, the 2020 NHL draft. We know that Lucas Raymond was obviously the big pick for the Red Wings, but I'm hearing a lot of great things about guys like Theodor Niederbach as well. And I know it's really hard to follow these guys that are playing overseas, but what are you hearing about some of the Red Wings draft picks?
Yeah, nothing but good things about Niederbach. I mean, he's tearing the J20 league on fire right now, setting it on fire, I should say. I think he's close to 2 points per game over there for Frölunda, and maybe just starting to get to the point where he's getting too good for that league almost. He did miss a season 2 years ago with a knee injury, and so it's certainly not a bad thing for him to make up those lost reps. But as Lucas Raymond saw last year in his draft year, it's really hard to carve out ice time for Frölunda's men's team, one of the top organizations in the league, one of the top teams in the league. Not easy to find a spot there. Niederbach's he's dressed for a few games, but I don't think he's played more than like 2 or 3 minutes so far in any game for the men's team. So I think it's probably safe to expect him to continue to play for that J20 team. But if he keeps tearing it up like this, they might have to find a new challenge for him somewhere soon. Otherwise, he's just going to run roughshod. So for the Red Wings, certainly you don't really mind either of those scenarios probably.
All right, Max, last question for you, and it's going to be a tough one to answer. I'm not going to let you off easy here. So everyone's excited for the NHL to make its return, and hopefully that's really soon. We talk about all these additions that the Red Wings have made to their team. What is your prediction for the 2021 season? How much better are the Red Wings actually going to be?
Well, that's one of the interesting questions, because for as much as I do think they improved at every single position group this offseason, they're starting from so far behind everybody else, right? I mean, they had 17 wins last year. I think they were like 22, 23 points behind 30th place. It's very possible that they could be 10, 11 wins better than last year. And still end up in the bottom 3 of the league, if not last place. So I don't really expect that to change. I think they're still going to be one of the 2 or 3 bottom teams in the standings. And yet I also think they're going to take a real step forward. And I think you're going to see steps forward from a lot of their young players. I think, Philip Zadina is a guy who, if he can do what he did in a short amount of time last year over a full season, that's a big deal. If Philip Hronek can take another step and maybe not have to play, 25, 26 minutes a night, do you see, him really have maybe even a little higher impact just because he's not getting used every other shift and in every situation? I think you could see that. And so I think they could be a better team, but I still think it's going to be more losses than wins by a decent margin. And I still think by the end of the year, they're going to end up toward the bottom of the standings, if not at the bottom of the standings. But I don't think that precludes progress. And so it's kind of an interesting dynamic to that.
Baby steps and patience, as Steve Yzerman always says. We all have to be patient.
There you go.
Right, Art?
I am very, very patient. And Max, I'm glad to see your beard's filling in. You're looking good.
Thanks, Art. I appreciate that. Miss seeing you, both of you. Miss seeing both of you at the arena.
Yes, we miss it too. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, though. It was great to see you virtually.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me.
Thanks,
of
Max.
course, Max. We'll be back soon. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Thank you to Max for joining us today. And now we are going to get back into baseball, where Art was joined by Sean Casey for today's headliner.
Thank you, Danielle. It is time for the headliner, brought to you by Miller Lite. And this gentleman needs no introduction. Believe it or not, in 2006, he hit over 500 for the Tigers in the World Series. In the World Series. I mean, come on. I mean, that's that has to be some sort of record. But anyway, it is Sean Casey, MLB Network analyst. He joins us again here on the headliner. Sean, thanks for doing that. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem, Mark. Good to be back on with you, brother.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it because the Tigers, unfortunately, had a little bit of a power outage in that World Series, but you were in the zone. Was that the best you've ever been in a short period of time? I know baseball tends to lend itself to streaks, but my gosh, were you good?
No, I had stretches like that throughout my career where I was just like, wow. I mean, sometimes you surprise yourself. But I give a lot of credit to Andy Van Slyke and Donnie Slott down the stretch there. Those past few weeks, we were doing a drill in the batting cages where Van Slyke would throw to me as hard as he could, and it was just about really getting visual and like really seeing the ball. And Van Slyke still had a cannon at that time, so anything I faced in the game, I was like, man, this isn't as hard as Andy Van Slyke's throwing in the batting cage. Unbelievable. And like I just got so locked in, like I was really seeing the ball. It looked like a beach ball to me, and like it was just perfect timing because when the playoffs had hit right at the end of the season there, I really started really rocking in some balls, and by the end of the season, I was really in a zone. I got to the postseason, then I got hurt in that first game in Oakland, and I was like, oh my gosh, like played my whole career. This is my 9th year in the big leagues to play in the World Series, and I might not play because I blew out my calf. And then I ended up getting healthy, came back in time to DH for game 1. And then, I ended up hitting, a couple home runs. And, I look back, I wish we would have won the World Series, but those memories for me playing on that team, for Jim Leland, all those guys in that clubhouse, and the memory of the city of Detroit, of how crazy those fans were and how awesome it was, it probably is the greatest memory of my career.
To this day, I think about it. I go, my God, whatever Sean Casey had during the World Series, he should bottle it and sell it. I mean, it was very cool, man. I mean, I have to say that I was really, really into it. Let's move on. MLB Tigers hire AJ Hinch. Your thoughts, on AJ getting another job. I mean, Cora got one too right after their suspensions. You're a former player. Is this going to sit well, do you think? Are we able to move past this? Where do you think we're at?
I think everybody in life deserves second chances. I mean, it would be a crazy world if we didn't give people second chances and stuff.
Right.
AJ Hinch has been a great manager. The players loved him out there in Houston. Alex Cora too, getting a chance to go back to Boston. Hey, listen, what do they say? Those who have no sins cast the first stone. I mean, I just think like we all have to have some, look back and go, listen, we've all made mistakes, whatever. But AJ Hinch is a great manager. He's the right guy there in Detroit. I saw they just signed George Lombard as the bench coach. George is a great guy. He was the first base coach over there in L.A., with the Dodgers. They brought in Scott Coolball's the hitting coach, right? Chip Hale's the third base coach.
Right.
The staff that A.J. Hinch has put together is really, really impressive, and I think it's going to really sit well with a lot of the, young players on that Detroit Tiger in the clubhouse.
Well, the reason, when you said, as they say, him without sin cast the first stone, you're quoting a pretty popular dude. You're quoting Jesus there, Sean.
What the heck?
Yeah, really. Yeah, if you're going to quote somebody, you might as well go for the big guy, as you said. That's excellent. I wanted to get into the coaching staff that A.J. Hinch hired too, and Chris Fetter, whom everybody knows. If you're a Michigan baseball fan, and believe it or not, there's plenty of them here in Southeast Michigan, you know who Chris Fetter is as a player, but you also know him as Michigan's pitching coach. I don't know how much you delve into the pitching side of things, being, a 500 hitter, career hitter in the World Series, but Fetter seems to be this guy that can take, I guess, the whole metrics thing into this century for the Tigers.
Well, yeah, I saw that they hired Fetter, and hey, listen, I think he's done a great job there at Michigan too. Has some pedigree as far as his career goes, and also too, I think you're right when you're dealing with the metrics of nowadays, the analytics, all that kind of stuff of how you break down certain guys and evaluate and how you put together a game plan for a pitching staff. He must have impressed some people there in the higher ups in Detroit because sounds like he's a great candidate.
Well, I wanted to ask you, during your career, was metrics still evolving? Because I'm from the school, I used to look at a guy, was he good or bad? Well, what's his average? How many home runs does he have? And how many runs batted in, was that something that you were aware of as a player?
Yeah, we had all the metrics too. I think now they're it's dressed up more, I think. I think now people have more of a role in the analytics and stuff. But I know at the end of the day, as a hitter, and I would probably say most hitters feel this way, don't give me too much information because I got to really keep it simple, stupid, right? I got to see the ball and hit it. I got to know what he's trying to do to me. But I also have to know, I can't overanalyze any of these stats. I have to be able to get in the moment, let my athletic ability come out, keep it simple, and get it done. Now, the analytics part of it, I think is become a big part, and I think there's something to be said about putting together a lineup. You saw, I think Kevin Cash, you saw Cash maybe getting in trouble in the World Series a little bit,
right,
with Snell dominating that game 5 2/3, and they went to the metrics to say they didn't want to face the Dodger lineup that third time when he already struck out Betts twice, Seager twice, and Justin Turner twice. So, sometimes I also think the analytics is going to come back around too, where you're like, okay, we do need the eye test. We do need baseball people. We do need guys that have been in the box and on the mound. We need guys that have played the game. Because I'll tell you what, Art, at the end of the day, the mental side of it, how to get your heart rate down, how to breathe, how to live in the moment. Those are things that no analytics, no metrics can tell me. I have to actually be in the game, actually see how fast it is, actually be able to control myself with the bases loaded, 2 outs in the World Series, and trying to get a hit, and fans are going crazy. No metric can tell you how to do that. You need actual baseball guys to do that.
The Tigers, I think, finished 9 games under 500 this year. Only played 58. But I know from here in Detroit, people were excited by some of the young players that they have. Even though Spencer Torkelson didn't come up, Riley Green didn't come up. But then you look at Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal. There seems to be a semblance of a pretty good baseball team here in Detroit in a very short period of time.
Yeah, Daz Cameron kind of sliding in there too. They have some studs, especially their arms. Skubal and Mize, and you talk about Torkelson in the bat. Riley Green, I was able to coach him at the Futures game a few years ago when he was in high school, the year before he got drafted by you guys. Kid's a stud, stood out this kid ranks. People are born to hit, he was born to hit. I really believe that. So when he comes up, he's going to have a wonderful career. The future's really bright in Detroit. I think they've had to take a couple steps back these last few years to propel themselves forward. But, like I said, those arms that they have and those position players have are game-changing people.
I always say it would be great if a team, when they're in a rebuild, catches a break on a player. I mean, a guy who's just head and shoulders, a superstar. I look at Riley Green, and I just see his ascension, as you just said. And I know that you coached him in that futures game, but we always hear, well, he's pretty young. A couple of years ago, he was thinking about his boutonniere or whatever for the high school prom or whatever. But is it baptism under fire? If Sean Casey, if you see something in a player, regardless of how old he is, do you just put him in there?
Well, I think nowadays, Art, you're seeing teams bring up guys so much younger and almost like, okay, here you go. You're going to learn at the big league level. And like Riley Green's a guy, I feel like that bat plays anywhere. Now, will you have some lumps here and there coming up young? Yeah, but might as well get him there sooner than later, I think. Let him see what the competition he's going to face and adjust to that. Because like I said, his bat, his eye-hand coordination, his power, I mean, he has a shot to be an elite player. And, I'd love to see him there sooner than later and take some of his lumps in the big leagues so that in a few years when the Tigers are really good, that he's right in the middle of that lineup.
I saw him at the beginning of the season in May, and then he did a Zoom call with the Tigers. And in that short period of time, which is only, 5-6 months at the most, not even, I mean, it looked like he had put on, 20 pounds of muscle. He just looked bigger, that he's starting to grow into his body. And I'm thinking, my gosh, what is he? Maybe 20? What's he going to look like at 24, 25? I mean, that guy, as you like to say, I mean, he's definitely has, all-star written all over him. I mean, I really think that he could end up, and nothing against all the other guys, because they're all good, especially Unleash the Torque, Spencer Torkelson. But, Riley Green, to me, seems to be that special player. I need to ask you a little bit about free agency. Tigers looking for a catcher. They have some young prospects that they're into. Looks like Austin Romine probably will not be back. Tiger fans really want James McCann. Do you have any idea where Detroit might go with the catching position?
I was just going to say, why not bring back James McCann? I mean, this guy gets better with age. I really does. I think he swings the bat well. That's a plus because I think he's really good with the staff. The guys behind the, he's great behind the dish. But that young staff, a guy like James McCann coming in, he's a veteran guy. He's been there. Why not bring him back? I mean, you look at Real Muto is the big money. It might take $180 million to sign him. James McCann, you get, production wise, he's a little lower than Real Muto, but he's going to give you a lot of value. That's not a bad idea to bring back McCann. I was going to say the same thing.
Well, when you look at it, I want to go to starting pitching and talk about a former, because of the way innings were limited, they're thinking maybe this year, all of baseball, every team's going to have to go to a 6-man rotation. A guy like Rick Porcello, obviously, I joke around, before he was like 24, he had won 200 games for the Tigers or something. He was a Tiger very, very young. Is he a possibility? A Porcello, because they're going to have to add, even though they have great arms in the organization, probably a veteran arm or two.
Yeah, they would definitely have to add a veteran arm. Porcello would be great too. Like, you talked about how I feel like he came up when he was 12. Every time I look up, he's like, how old is Porcello? He's 24. Hasn't he been in the big league for like, say, 18 years? I mean, you feel that way about Porcello. It's unbelievable, So bringing Porcello back might not be a bad thing. Anything to teach some of the young kids like Scooble and Mize and, these young arms, really how to navigate a game. And, anybody they bring in, obviously, I don't think they're going to bring in the big free agents, like a Bauer or Stroman or something like that. But to bring in a mid-range free agent, somebody that can really help these young kids along would be huge. And then develop them. Then maybe you go get a top guy in a couple years.
DJ LeMahieu's from here, grew up a Tiger fan, probably, I would assume, a big Sean Casey fan. He probably remembers that World Series too.
Yeah.
I mean, too much money? Do you think I would think Detroit's probably going to make a play for him just because of his local ties, but like a LeMahieu, a Colton Wong, because they need an infielder, Profar, any of those guys?
I mean, LeMahieu would be unbelievable. I'm a huge fan of him. I mean, they only talk about the shift on guys. I a stat the other day at MLB Network. I think in the last 5 years they've only shifted twice on LeMahieu. I mean, that just goes to show you how good of a hitter he is. And
yeah.
Just really a line-to-line guy, tough out, doesn't strike out a lot, going to put together good at-bats for you. So, I mean, geez, if the Tigers sign LeMahieu, that would be huge, for that lineup, just for as far as just a professional hitter goes. There's a lot of good other guys out there, I don't know. Jonathan Scope too. I think he's still a really good player. I don't know if you just give up on trying to maybe bring him back at some point too. So,
right.
I don't know where the Tigers are right now as far as wanting to make that long-term commitment to a big free agent. So I don't know if they're going to give LeMahieu the money that he's going to need right now, but. Man, the Tigers seem to be in a good position with a lot of young kids and maybe bringing in a free agent here or there. I just don't know if it's going to be that frontline free agent.
Well, I'll tell you a guy that I would like. I always liked him when he was with Cleveland. I always thought he was a premier hitter. I don't know if they have a chance for him. I know they want to add another outfielder or two. That'd be a guy like Michael Brantley. Exactly. I mean, he would look great in the Old English D.
He would look great. He would look great anywhere. That guy flat out can hit. And, you saw this year where he was playing, a little bit of coming back from some injuries and DH for the Astros and did that really well. So, I mean, he would bring so much value as an outfielder. You could throw him in at DH. You could do whatever. But, man, Brantley would be a great sign for the Tigers.
Well, he certainly would be. Sean, unfortunately, because we got into that big Jesus discussion, we're going to have to end it right here. We've run out of time, so we'll have to have you on very, very quickly because, obviously, from what I've heard, you're the mayor. You're going to be heading up all these recounts all over the country, so we'll have to get into that, too.
No chance. Keep me in the baseball realm, not the political realm,
All right. Sean, it's always great to visit with you. We will talk to you very, very soon. Always enjoy your work as a player and then obviously on the MLB Network as an analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the Headliner.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me on, man. I'll see you down the road.
All right, buddy. That sounds good. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Headliner, brought to you by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer, only 96 calories. It tastes delicious, and it is available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art. Always great to hear from Sean Casey. Now we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And, of course, bringing in Carly Johnston for this one. But before I toss her the reins, I have to say, Carly said it too. The energy on that interview was just like way up. You and Sean Casey are quite the duo.
Well, as you know, as both of you know, I am not an early riser. I do not like getting up early in the morning. And when I'm told that we have to do an interview at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. or something, I am not a happy guy. And it's just because, I have a trouble falling asleep. But, earlier today, about 8:30 or ever, we make sure the system works. And Mark asked me how I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing all right. And I'm drinking my coffee. I got to have 3 cups before we get this thing done at 9 o'clock. But immediately when that starts, and you know how it is, I don't care how you're feeling, when they give you the go, let's go, you count down and you start, you've got to bring it. You just have to bring it. And about the World Series, I mean, unbelievable. Sean Casey for the Tigers hit 500. He hit 500 in the World Series. I think the Tigers' collective average in 2006 was like 140. So it goes to show you that he was by far the biggest bright spot in that whole World Series. Well, then he was into it, and then he brought it, and then you feed off of each other. I mean, I love Sean Casey. I love him. I love the mayor as a player. I love talking to him. I love interviewing him. And he was one of our first guests on WOW. So, thank you. But I mean, it was all Sean on this one. You're only as good as your guest, the way I look at it. And man, Sean Casey was just excellent. I mean, he just brought it out. He just loved it. And, obviously likes really Jim Leland and a big fan of Jesus. Who knew,
That was funny.
His name escapes me. It's like they say, he who casts without sin casts the first stone. And it's like, yeah, that was Jesus, Sean. It was great. He's great. You can tell he loved his time in Detroit. He really, really loved his time in Detroit. He was really into it. So, it was fun. Daniela, you all right? I mean, I'm serious.
I don't know. You're just amped up. And every time I think you're done, you have like another thing to say. Carly's going to cut
I smile so long, my teeth are hurting.
Let's socialize, Carly.
Let's socialize. All right, let's get things popping here. First question up, I have for both of you guys. I'll have you. I don't know. Maybe actually, you know what? We're gonna have Daniela answer it first so she can talk. Who is your way too early Detroit Red Wings MVP favorite? I'm assuming for next season. That is from Bennett_30.
Okay, my answer is going to be Tyler Bertuzzi for a few reasons. The first reason being that he's had a couple of really great seasons and he's improved in each of those. The second reason being that I think they wanted to get to a longer term deal than just a year that came out of the arbitration deal. And I think he has something to prove. Is Art laughing right now?
Yeah, I heard that. Oh my goodness.
I'm just laughing because you have a Tyler Bertuzzi fixation lately. We could ask you anything, and it's like, hey, it's Tyler Bertuzzi. It's Tyler Bertuzzi.
I guess yours is going to be too, Art. Where you go?
Oh, yeah? Who do you think? Who do you think?
Mr. Unleash the Torque, Mr. Casey Mize. I don't want to hear you giving her any flack.
I just knew. Well, Carly, that's all fair. And hey, if you dish it out, you can take it. So keep bringing it, ladies. Keep bringing it. But with that said, I just knew when that question, you go, Daniela, let you go first. And I'm thinking in my head, Tyler Bertuzzi. And boom, there it was. But you know what it means is that we have gelled as a tandem, as a trio. We all kind of know. I hope we don't get to the part where we're finishing each other's sentences. That's a little too weird for me. But
I never. Don't Kanye West her. You, Daniela. Why is it Tyler?
Yeah, why is it Tyler?
I was almost done. Like I said, he had 2 good seasons, 21 goals in each of those seasons, improving as he moves along, like you would want any young player to do. And the 1-year deal. So he's on a 1-year deal. He's got something to prove, and he's playing for a lot more than some of the guys that, like Anthony Mantha. He's on a 4-year deal, and I know that he's still going to be good. I'm not saying that he's not going to be, but Tyler Bertuzzi has a lot to play for in the sense that he wants to get a bigger contract in the next season, and he's been playing so well. So I think it's going to be Tyler Bertuzzi. So let's go to Art's unpredictable answer.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the way I'm breaking it down. Who is the early Detroit Red Wings MVP? I hope it's like a shared deal between Jonathan Bernier and Thomas Greiss. That would be the best case scenario for the Red Wings if they get solid goaltending, because the way the NHL is, they could actually make maybe even a legitimate playoff run. I'm not so sure Steve wants to hear that. Like, no. I want those draft picks. I want to get low in that draft. So, Grace and keep us in games, guys. But, no, I'm just kind of joking around. I look at it this way. Who is their MVP? I think it comes down. I like Tyler Bertuzzi. He obviously has a lot to play for. I think Daniela's right. He sees what Mantha's making now. He sees what Larkin is making. They're the 2 highest paid guys on the team. So I think that it could be the BT Express. I mean, if Mantha stays healthy, and I believe because he was mammoth, he was a giant in that press conference. I mean, BT has put on some weight, all upper body strength. I think he's going to be calmer and stay on the ice. He's getting a little bit older now. He's making a healthy buck. Not that he wasn't before, but I just mean, look at him. Look at that power. Look at the Express. You can't teach that. I mean, he's a giant. He's an absolute giant. And this, by far, gets the puck at the blue line, goes in and scores, has a great shot, great passer. I mean, no question about it. The Express has arrived. There you go. Woo, woo. You saw it. I mean, that's why he is the BT Express. However, who's the MVP? It's not Bernier. No, it's not Bernier. No. It's not Bernier. It's not Greiss. It's not Tyler Bertuzzi. Sorry, Daniela. Don't mean to break your heart. But you still have the title of Miss Anchor Bay High School, so you'll always have that to fall back on. And I also think it's not the BT Express. You know who it is?
I know.
It's the man who's going to have that C on his jersey.
Oh.
Michigan's own Dylan Larkin. Yeah, I can't believe, what is he, 24, but he's been in the league what seems like he's like the Rick Porcello of the Red Wings. It seems Larkin's always been a Red Wing. I think no question that Dylan Larkin is the MVP of this team. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to lead. I think that, he learned well from Justin Abdicator. For many years, their stalls were right next to each other. They kind of changed it last year where he's more with Bertuzzi and Big Tony now. But I think it's going to be Dylan Larkin. I truly do. I think that Larkin, as Danielle and I have said many, many times on the Big Screen Show, it is his team. And I think he's going to prove it. I think that, Dylan Larkin is going to take that leap. The Wings need a player. They need a player who is going to be elite, who is going to ascend, who's going to get 80 points in a season. And certainly with the addition of Bobby Ryan, who's going to help them. Fabre, he's signed too. We always forget about Robbie. I keep saying that, but we really do. When you look at this collection of forwards, it's maybe some of the young guys who might be pressing. And if there's no AHL season, I'm convinced there's going to be an expanded roster. If there's an expanded roster, that means that guys like Veleno and some of the younger forwards will probably be on that expanded roster, meaning they're going to be in Detroit, they're going to practice, probably get in a game or two, with the Red Wings. But with all that said, take it to the bank. If go to Vegas, call up, do whatever you guys are into, however you bet. The MVP, the way too early Detroit Red Wings MVP. Who's the favorite? Without question, it is Dylan Larkin.
Wow. Okay.
So we also went through the whole roster.
Oh my God, man! They had to cut away from me.
Mo Cider. Or Mo Cider. No, I just.
You gave us a whole spiel about Tampa, and then you pivoted and said Larkin. You're cut off. All right. Now that we're running heavy because we're running early, let's go to question number 2. A fan submitted this. I saw the Tigers veteran video. Awesome. I couldn't help but notice Shep's muscles. Matt Shepard. Look at those guns. Point me to what do they say? Point me to the nearest gun show. What is it? I don't even know. Yeah. But Matt Shepard's been doing push-ups in quarantine.
My close.
Well, I've known Shep a long time. Yeah. That's why you're Miss Anchor Bay High School. You still have the guns there, Daniela. With that said, Matt does work out. Oh yeah, my wear a long sleeve shirt on Thursday. Yeah, anyway, Matt does work out. He's kind of like the Jay Glazer of, because he's kind of a workout fiend. Matt definitely does have a good upper body strength. As you can tell, I mean, he was practically, those poor veterans, he was just like tossing the food at him. It was like he was almost knocking him down. But, look at that. I mean, that thing serves 20 some odd meals, right? You know how heavy that has to be? And look at Shep. I don't, he's saying, give it to me, young lady. I'm just going to toss it in the back of the van. just bring me more. Get me 2 or 3 boxes at a time. Why only one? Well, because she can probably only lift one, Matt. That's why she's doing that. So, boom. Look at that guy. Look at that. I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive.
I know. That's impressive. But I just had to give some shout-out love. I know that fan was really looking to talk about Shep's muscles. So, Shepard, if you're watching, keep up with the push-ups. You're doing a great job.
I guess instead of calling him Shep, we'll just have to call him Guns. Guns Shepard joins us. Hey, Guns. Yeah, the Hulk. The Hulk of television broadcasters, Matt Shepard.
Exactly. All right. And our last but not least bullet point, the Detroit Red Wings tweeted this video saying on this day in 1991, which would be 29 years ago, Art, you like that math there? Both Ted Lindsay's and Alex Delvecchio's numbers, 7 and 10 respectively, were retired. So really cool. Art, do you remember that moment? I was not born yet, so
yeah, you know, I was very, very young. I was in the stands, you know, sitting on my dad's lap, which people thought was weird because I was like 40. But you know, I actually do remember. I actually do remember that moment. I thought it was, yeah. We got some stares that day, but it's like, hey, what are you looking at? You know, it's for Ted and Alex. You know, I do remember, you know, 2 great Red Wings. The thing that's interesting is that the Red Wings do not really retire a lot of numbers. You know, they have some that aren't in circulation, like number 6 and Vladdy's 16. You know, hopefully someday, I know people want Sergei up there. Ozzy should be up there. You know, so they're going to be some more as you know, as the years progress. Rightly, there should be. Henrik Zetterberg's 40. It's a shoo-in. It's definitely a shoo-in. But yeah, I remember that day. You know, Ted was such a gentleman, such a great guy. And Alex, I feel bad for Alex Delvecchio on this aspect. I think that he, along with Steve, are the longest serving captains in Detroit Red Wing history. He had over 1,000 points in his career, but unfortunately, because the Red Wings, because this is during my day, I remember Alex Delvecchio, you know, when I was growing up, he was such a great player. Unfortunately, a lot of those teams, especially in the Darkness and Harkness era, you know, a lot of those teams are forgotten. You know, they made a lot of moves. You know, they traded all the Red Wing. You know, they completely traded teams away. But Alex Delvecchio and Ted Lindsay, it really doesn't. I know it's cliche to say this, but 7 and 10, well deserved. They should have been retired, maybe even a little bit sooner. But as I said, the Red Wings, and you know, but I kind of like that about the Red Wings too. You know, it's not like some of these organizations you go in their building and it's like, hey, you played for the Leafs, right? Yeah, what was your number? I was number 4. Oh, yeah, guess what? We're going to retire your number. But I only played 6 games. That's all right. We're going to retire it anyway. So, you know, so some defensemen, or pardon me, some teams have an abundance of numbers. Detroit doesn't. I kind of like that. That's a very special. And if you're up in the rafters at now Little Caesars Arena, you were a hell of a hockey player.
Yeah. We're lucky to have had a lot of those, but I do want to get back to the fact that, were you joking when you said you were 40 years old sitting on your dad's lap? I really need to know more about this. And is there a picture? Is there a picture?
What a visual. And we were both like flexing our muscles, you know. Now, yeah, I don't think I wasn't quite 40 years old back in 1991. Actually, I really wasn't. Yeah, sitting on my dad's lap. No. What a visual, though. If he were still alive, I would hear about it. It'd be like, Arthur, how could you say that? People are going to think we're weirdos. And it's like, no, Dad, we're just huge Red Wing fans. There's nothing weird about it. We're father and son. Give me a break. You know, get your mind out of the gutter there, George. You know, but no, I wasn't 40 and I wasn't sitting on his lap. You know, I think I might have been actually maybe covering that game. I do remember the ceremony. I definitely remember the ceremony. So yeah, like what was that? 91?
91.
Yeah, I was only in my 30s back then. So and early 30s actually. So
well, then you could have been sitting on your dad's lap. That would have been fine.
Oh yeah, he would have really enjoyed it. My dad was not, you know, he liked sports, but his team was all about football for him, you know. You know, yeah. Now I've got boss man Andrew Kristoff. Oh wow, you were 40 in 1991? No, I was not. I was not 40 in 1991. I was considerably younger. No, maybe not considerably, but I wasn't 40.
Back to the jersey retirement. It was very cool to watch that video. It was awesome. I got the pleasure of meeting Ted Lindsay and working with him before we unfortunately lost him, but never got to meet Alex Delvecchio. But another really cool thing, we were all there for Red Kelly's jersey retirement. That was another really cool thing that we got to experience. That I remember recording the whole thing, and then somehow I accidentally deleted the video. So that was cool. But it was really cool person.
Yeah, no, Red Kelly's jersey, unfortunately probably should have been retired a long time before it was. But again, out of sight, out of mind. I mean, and I could sit there, sitting in the Red Wings offices or something, and say, hey, Red Kelly's number's not retired. Well, maybe we better do that. I mean, he was great. He was Bobby Orr for Bobby Orr. Interesting fact about Red Kelly is that he was the first winner of the Norris Trophy. With the Norris Trophy, when they began to award it, the first winner was Detroit's own Red Kelly. So, I mean, just an excellent hockey player. I mean, really, when you look at the history, I said this about the Tigers, you could go position by position and they could stack up with anybody. You can do that for the same. And truly, arguably, and I've said this before, you go to forward, Gordie Howe, you go defenseman, Nick Lidstrom, you go in goal, Terry Sawchuk. Trust me, rest of NHL, bring it on, because I don't know if you can match those three.
Well, hopefully we'll name a captain this season, and Alex Delvecchio can give that captain, whoever it may be,
it's the MVP.
How to get their jersey retired when they get older. But Daniela, you poor thing, have been sitting there the whole time trying forward.
I was trying to hold a smile. That is I think we've talked about this before, how hard it is to hold a smile.
I have a question for Daniela. Wait, real quickly, Daniela. What year will Tyler Bertuzzi's number 59 be retired by the Red Wings?
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, he's my age-ish, right? He's 25, 24, 25.
There.
So he's going to play at the very most 10 more years. So that'd be 2035-ish.
2035? Okay. That'll be okay. All right. 2035, Tyler Bertuzzi gets his number retired. Okay, that's good.
Art, are you done?
I could go on, but I won't.
Okay.
I know we had a lot of time to kill, so I just love saying.
You don't always.
Oh, wow.
Is the thing. You just don't always have to. You don't have to.
Hey, this was good quality stuff today. I thought I brought it. So.
Daniela, so did you. And on that note, it's 75 degrees out here. Take it away, Daniela.
Yes. All right, Art.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you. Let's socialize. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Believe it or not, everybody, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. If you missed anything today, make sure you check out the Word on Woodward YouTube page. All of our past interviews are uploaded on there, and the ones from today will also be uploaded on there. So again, if you missed anything, check it out. You can also listen to the show as a podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. Another reminder, if you have not yet received your flu shot and would like to, you can head down to Comerica Park today until 6 p.m. to get your free flu shot. Again, Comerica Park, 6 o'clock until 6 o'clock today. So make sure you get down there if you would like to get your free flu shot. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in today. We'll be back on Thursday at noon, so we'll see you then.